Hey, everybody. Welcome to Founders Focus. I'm Scott Case, the co-founder and CEO of Upside, and I'll be your co-host today on Founders Focus. I am super excited to be joined by Eugene Kruglov, who is the co-founder and COO at AppFollow, and he is joining us from Helsinki, where it is light all the time right now, at the very beginning of July. And we're going to talk about shifting customer expectations and how to manage them and how to read and measure them. But before we do that, I'd love to understand a little bit more about how you started AppFollow, what were you doing before, and how has your founder's journey unfolded?
Thank you very much, Scott. Nice to be here. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. So let's dive in. We started AppFollow 6 years ago. My co-founders and myself, we were in mobile product business. I had a small company that was just a little venture of my partner and myself, building mobile applications and mobile services for third-party companies. And my co-founders, they were in a travel startup and they were dealing with the mobile part of the business in this travel startup. And actually, it was not my idea, to be honest. It was my co-founder, Anatoly, who came up one day and told me that, in travel, there's so many applications and I need to keep track on all of those applications, because they always launch something new, and I want to stay sharp and stay updated on what's new and what's going on there. So the idea that he had at that time was to collect reviews that are published in the app stores, both Apple and Google, and from these reviews, understand what customers like and don't like in the competitor's application, and that will give him insights and ideas on how to build an application of his own. At that time, I was thinking of launching. I actually launched already a few projects of my own on mobile. They were not successful at all, to be honest, but I was very much into building a product myself. So I said, yeah, it's a great idea. I would love to research the space. I would love to learn customers' feedback and understand how this can shift my product as well. And the idea actually really came onto me. So we've been spending a lot of time together discussing it. So eventually, we decided to build up a company to build a service, because we were looking everywhere. We didn't have anything that could help us do what we wanted to do. And Anatoly actually is also a great engineer. We found another co-founder who's our CTO at the moment, Pavel. He's also a great engineer. And together, I wasn't the only one who doesn't know how to code. So I was dealing with everything else except coding. And together, we've started the company. And no one knew how to build SaaS businesses at that time. Between three of us. Well, I had a little bit of experience in building companies, and so we were just, learning by doing. That's how we started, and it's already 6 years. I feel like we're nailing it, at least a little bit. We're fundraising. We've been growing. We're 90 people. Probably even a little bit more than 90 people now, stretched between 15 different countries all over the world and having a bunch of customers all over the world. And we're only getting started. So that's a short version of how we're doing.
That's awesome. So I want to go back to that founding moment. It sounded like you both had different either products or businesses that you were working on. What was the decision point where you said, let's put those down, or did you put them down? Let's put those down and really just focus on getting AppFollow to be successful. How did you go from those other projects to saying this is the main objective?
That's a good one. So what happened actually is that Anatoly, my co-founder, so the one who had the idea, actually decided to quit his company, and he really wanted to start building something of his own. So prior to starting AppFollow, he was building some kind of a consulting service, which was about actually helping teams optimize their applications for search in app stores, which is now called ASO. But in 2013, 2014, when he started learning these things, no one actually knew this term. And he had this entrepreneurial wheel inside of him. So he really wanted to try to build a company, not just a product, but a company. And he, in a certain way, leaned on me because I've already built a few companies of my own, very small ones, but that was bigger than he had in terms of experience. So he really was coming to me and asking questions like how you set up a company, what you need to do to run the company, how you funded it in the early days. And I was telling him, we've been self-funding all the time. These are quite small companies. I had 15 people. That was like the top of the team that we had around that time. And I also heard this urge for entrepreneurial stuff. 10 years or maybe 15 years ago, I don't remember, like quite a long time ago, when I was trying to apply for one position, a recruiter that talked to me, she was listening, and then she thought, I don't see you as a hired manager, I see you as an entrepreneur. So she gave me this advice, and I actually followed it in just a few years later and set up my first company. And so it was like, on the tips of our fingers, and because the ideas seemed to be really interesting and kind of very persuasive. Also, a lot of friends of ours who were in the same business were telling us, yeah, it sounds like it's making sense. We just thought, let's chip in, and we gathered on my kitchen, spent, I think, one night discussing things and trying to build like an idea of the company, and then we just went and registered it.
That's awesome. So fast forward to, where is the business today? You talked about how many employees. What is the core product? What are some of the things that you've learned on the journey? Tell us sort of where you are right now.
What we're building is a service to help product teams manage applications in the stores. The idea is that we help them build a better version of their products through amplifying voice of customer, through helping them being more visible to the potential customers, and also through competitors analytics. So the initial idea stays there. We're collecting a lot of data, which is available in the app stores publicly, but we've built a very sophisticated algorithm that help you do it not manually, which will take tons of your time, but actually it would do it like on the spot as soon as you want to track some application. And then based on the data that we're collecting, we're building some reports and analytics, and we provide you with this information. For example, we can give you a high-level view of customer sentiment on your application, and then you can compare the sentiment to your competitors' applications, and that will just initiate some thinking behind what you're doing and how you're doing it. Ultimately, each product release that you're doing should be better than the previous one, and we are helping you with that by giving you an ideas of how to improve the product. In terms of where we are at the moment, so we've passed our Series A funding last year. We're actually planning to have our Series B funding next year if everything goes well. As I said, we have almost 90 people on board. We've been remote from day one. Actually, because I moved to Helsinki, Finland, we didn't have any choice but to become remote. And since that time, we've been working and hiring people all over the world. And at the moment, one of the big challenges that we're having is that we're upgrading our sales motion, we're upgrading our marketing motion, and we're building some footprint on the United States, because that's eventually one of the biggest markets for us. So it's really important for us to be there and to have some real people dealing and helping us close the customers that we work with. Yeah, so that's in a nutshell.
So let's transition to I guess sort of your observations. You've got a lot of clients that are using AppFollow to track not only their own products in the app stores, but also their competitors. And yep, there's been a lot of shifts over the course of the last 5 years around the expectations that customers have about how they use applications. So I'll give you an example of one. Early on, when Face ID came out for the iPhones, very few apps supported them. And now if you don't support it, you get constant complaints. Like, what do you mean I can't unlock your app with this? So can you tell us some of the trends that you've seen that are kind of across applications that have shifted, and what are those big things that if you're you're building an app today, the customers are expecting these, 1, 2, or 3 things that you really need to be current. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of complaints.
Well, that's actually quite a tricky question, because in a certain way, we ourselves are doing some kind of researches like that, but we're not really looking into that ourselves at the moment. But from the way how we know the market and how we feel what's going on, I would say, first of all, applications tend to become more complex at the moment. So customers actually expect a more sophisticated service, basically expecting something like full service, fully fledged service on mobile compared to web. And for many countries and for many people, the first experience they're building is mobile experience, not web experience, not desktop experience. So they really want to have like a really powerful application. In the early days, applications were really quite simple, and the idea was that each application should have just one function. Now it doesn't work, so they have to be much more sophisticated than that. It also implies that with the example of Face ID, as hardware developers, basically Apple and everyone that produces Android phones, they implement a lot of hardware initiatives on their side, and these are usually quite cutting-edge technologies. And if your application should support that, it should support it. And sorry, if it can support it, it should support it. That's the correct way to say it. Sorry for my English. We see that customers do complain. I would say, for example, with Apple Pay support or Google Pay support, for them it's important that the developer really injects the support of these features in their application. So that will be also something that they're looking for. And at the same time, surprisingly enough, they want the interface to be very intuitive. Sorry. So having a complex application that might do a lot of things at one hand, and then having a simple interface that wouldn't make you struggle understanding it and getting through it. These are a little bit counterintuitive things, but you have to think about that all the time. I would say those are probably the most important trends that we discover. Yeah, so everything else is pretty much the same as usual. So customers expect you to support all modern devices, but they also want you to support all devices as well, as long as possible. They want you to have on every device, even though they're not using you on Apple Watch, they still want an application Apple Watch for some reason. That's still like a decision for them to make to download this application or not. Yeah, so there's some other things that are like very basic ones. So it should be fast. It should be, it shouldn't make you struggle, and usually it should be free. So this never changed. Everyone wants an application to be free rather than to pay for it.
So let's take that on. So from a business model standpoint, free is always nice, except for the fact that I'm sure that you have figured out how to get paid for your product. What do you see within the apps that are your clients that are most successful? What are their business model strategies that seem to be working? Is it in-app purchases? Is it more subscription based? Where do you see the trend lines for users who really like your app to say, okay, now I'm ready to pay for it?
The way how the business model evolved. So in the very early days, everyone tried to build a paid application. But as the cheapest price was $1, quite fast, every application that was trying to be a paid application was actually jiggling around $1 to $3 or euros or any kind of equivalent of that amount of money. And then free applications was eventually winning the market, and there was always some developer that wanted to build something for free because for him it was just or for her it was just an experience, something to educate, to get an expertise, and not a business. And eventually they've been like building something free of charge just to get more users and to understand whether it's working or not. In-app purchases was the next step. So, okay, you can download it for free and then you have to pay it, and we would unlock the most of the features if you pay for it still one time. This is, if you remember, there was like when there was this demo versions, and then you have to buy a full version of the application. So pretty much the same thing happened sometime on the desktop, and it just re-happened, like this history repeated itself on the mobile. But the things continue to shift, and what is now is a standard business model is a subscription-based model. So eventually, if you want to have a full-fledged service, everything that a service can provide you, you have to pay for the subscription. But that is actual only if you're a mobile-first company. If you are a bank, or if you're a travel agency, or if you're something else that has actually a big offline business, mobile applications usually stay free and they don't have any monetization. Their intention is to build loyalty and to stick, to keep you stick with the service as a customer, because you can use the service on mobile. As I mentioned, they really want everything to happen on mobile rather than on the web. And this actually emerged into like the combinations of offline and real time. Like we can do purchases in real life, but with mobile phone. Yeah, you can go and make an order of a coffee on your phone while walking towards the coffee shop, and then just grab the coffee, which you already paid through the phone. And these like business models, they actually like this combination of real world and mobile world, they're spreading really a lot through the businesses worldwide. I assume Uber have to be the first one who actually introduced this kind of merge. When you were ordering something on your mobile phone, but then the actual car is coming towards you. And now we're having a lot of things that you order on the phone, and then they physically deliver to you, or physically getting in touch with this or access it in this or that way. So depending on the business, so if you're a mobile first business, and there's lots of them. It's not only gaming companies, it's fitness companies. These are health companies doing some meditation applications or mindful, helping you build like a healthier state of the mind. These are travel applications, which actually sometimes have web, sometimes don't, and many others. So these businesses strictly rely on the fact that you are paying for something through your mobile phone. If you are an offline business, a bank or whatever it is, you can try to do something which is paid through mobile phone, but usually you're just leaning on your basic service, and then mobile just supports it and makes your customers more invited.
So let's fast forward to the future. 5 years from now, what do you think the mobile, you brought up Apple Watch, the wearables, what do you see as the next big thing in mobile applications as a whole? And we are recording this, so when you're wrong, we'll come back to you in 5 years and let you know.
Yeah, if I knew, I probably would be already building this thing. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm that smart. But I would say that, in my opinion, 5 years pretty much will just keep the current trend going. And I mean, mobile phones definitely became something that we're living with every day, and they became an essential part of our lives. They're serving as different medias. They can hold your documents, they can be your access to devices, they can be access to cars, they can access the buildings. You can pay with the phones, you can book with the phones, hotels, book tickets, you can actually do whatever you want. So I believe this progress will be with the way how we interacting with those services, whether they'll be more integrated, coming one into another, and that might produce some hybrids in terms of devices that we'll use. There was a lot of believes that AR or VR or something in between would be a next interface that everyone would start using. We see now people testing devices that are connected directly to your brain. So Matrix is waiting. We also see some other experiments that every company is trying to do, and no one actually knows what will shoot and what won't. So I believe that maybe in 5 years there will be no major shift, but just a slow evolution of everything that happens. And maybe we will get some more convenient devices. Like now, you can also pay with your phone, and sometimes it's easier. Oh, sorry, with your watch, and sometimes it's easier to pay with your watch rather than picking up your phone from your pocket. Like we're so lazy now, we're just just leaning our head towards the paying device. Maybe they will develop something else. I'm definite that health industry will continue to evolve, and there will be a lot of wearables that will help you keep tracking of your vitals, and that will definitely go way further than it is now. And maybe we'll finally see a breakthrough in VR or AR, but that'll be something which we don't imagine at the moment. So I'm pretty sure that will be something much more simple, but at the same time, maybe much more fun. Instead of just having those big heavy things on your head and a small computer on your back, and it's not working. So it should be something else. That's how I see it.
That's awesome. All right, my last question for you is: you've got team members in 15 different countries. You started the company as remote from the get-go. Do you travel for business at all? And what are your if you do, what are your plans in the next 6 months?
We actually did, and offline is very important when you are totally online. Though the pandemic definitely stopped any traveling. We were not traveling for a year and a half. We were really looking forward. Just now we had our get together in St. Petersburg in Russia for the Russian part of the team. And it was probably a little bit more than half of everyone in one place having fun doing the hackathon, because hackathons are our things on these get-togethers. Business traveling also, it's kind of starting to take off. So some of the events are offline, and we're visiting those events. I really hope to get to Silicon Valley at the end of September for SaaStr. That will be this a big event for the SaaS companies. So I really want to be there. They canceled it last March, exactly when I was, the next day I was going for the airplane, and then they canceled it. So it was very upsetting. So I really want to go there. I'm in a certain way even missing Silicon Valley, though it's difficult to imagine. It's a very strange place, but very interesting. And hopefully, little by little, we'll be doing business travel again, which means that we'll be visiting our customers, we'll be visiting some events, and we'll have events of our own. But 95% of our communication would still be online, meaning calls, Slack, and even probably a little bit of emails still.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. Look, if you need a business travel solution, you can certainly sign up for Upside. We'd be happy to help you. Okay. We have a fantastic free solution for small businesses. I'll be happy to check it. Yes. Very good. Upside.com. So thank you so much for watching and listening. And Eugene, thanks for joining us. You can always grab one-on-one time with me at foundersfocus.com. You can join our LinkedIn group and get connected with lots of entrepreneurs from all over the world. So thanks again for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.